Welcome to a place for those in search of truth and conviction, a place where we discuss culture, politics, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Russ. This is Hardly Strictly Politics.
Hell yes, dear listener. The HSP boys are back in the saddle once again for episode number 75. Thank you so much for jumping in the saddle with us. 75, dear listener. Together with you, the HSP boys reach our diamond anniversary. Can you believe it? Now, dear listener, I'm personally fixing to burn it down right now. I'm celebrating, you heard? I might get a little unsteady in the saddle, so if I could prevail the favor, please prop me up, dear listener. And Luke, you prop me up too if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. 2 separate continents,
Yeah, of course, man.
2 separate countries, 2 separate adult beverages, just to make it fair, and 2 separate cups of coffee fee, 2 separate fact shamings, 2 separate show preps, 2 separate trails to the same inevitable conclusion. 75, dear listener. Diamonds, dear listener. The 75th anniversary is also called the Diamond Anniversary, as we alluded to earlier. U.S. Highway 75, also known as the Central Expressway in Dallas, Texas, my hometown. 1975, the year that Stevie Nicks joins Fleetwood Mac. Margaret Thatcher rises to power in the Tory Party. 1975, the Rocky Horror Show opens on Broadway. Bill Gates creates Microsoft in 1975, and I could go on and on and on. But none of this really matters right now. And why is that, dear listener? Because the trail grows longer each and every single week. And 75 means that we've got 75 miles to ride on this trail right here, right now. So let's not tarry. Let's saddle up and ride into episode number 75, which is in the house presently. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, and TuneIn, all 5 under Zero Gravity Media. Find us on YouTube, look for Zero Gravity Media and our God tier, Zero G logo. Google Play, F. Leave us some feedback using the contact form at our website, zero-gravity-media.com/contact. Each week, Luke and I call out one city. And this city, the magic of this city, is the city with the most HSP listens during the previous week. So without any further ado, the city with the most HSP listens during the previous week is... We're going to keep it to 1 this week, dear listener, by popular request. Boston, Massachusetts. Way to command the trail this week, Boston. Thank you so much. We knew it was only a matter of time until you claimed the first place spot. And Luke, I actually am going to throw one more down. San Francisco is up in the top 3 this week. Now, San Francisco, it's probably because y'all are on lockdown. It's not really surprising to me and Luke, but we're going to shout you out every time we can because San Francisco is the cradle of HSP and the home of Dearest Listener. And Luke and I actually met in San Francisco for new riders on the trail. We incubated HSP there in San Francisco. So, Luke, I suppose probably all of our friends are on lockdown there. And they've been telling us they're listening to the show this whole time, and they haven't been. Now they have nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Now that they're all bored and don't have anything to do, they're listening to the show.
Busted, fam, busted.
That's right.
What a week, man. What a week.
What a week indeed. Let's just jump right into the content here. So first thing we're going to do, dear listeners, break down what is in the stimulus package. And I get so annoyed about these sorts of things, Russ. I've become so annoyed with the media, the way all of these news, and they're all the same, right? New York Times. I have to say, I chose Politico this week because I thought they did the best job of including what's in the stimulus package.
Well, I'll be damned.
But yeah, I just get so annoyed. You have to read 30 different articles to cobble together what's actually in it and not in it. And even then, I still couldn't figure out what of Nancy Pelosi's ridiculous demands actually got taken out. I assume them to be all, but I could not find a single media article. I even went to the bill itself on the government website and combed through it. That's the only way I can really, with any amount of certainty, be sure that her nonsense didn't get included, but I'll let you cover that here in a minute, Russ. But yeah, so what we're going to do now is go over what is exactly in the stimulus package that just got passed. It passed the House, passed Senate first, and then the House, and Trump signed it on Friday, I believe. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
So here we go. Let's just jump right into it. This is long. It's going to take me a minute. Bear with me, but I've got everything highlighted. This is all of the most important things, the most relevant things. So beefed up unemployment benefits. People who are unemployed would get an extra $600 per week for up to 4 months. And important here, because I see these idiots on Facebook, and I don't know where they're getting their news from. I don't know. I just see them post these memes where it's like, Denmark, they get 80%. France, they get 70%. United States, they get $1,200 check. That is complete nonsense.
Yes.
Okay. The workers in America under this bill are so far better off than people in other countries. So what they get is $600 a week for up to 4 months but that is on top of state unemployment benefits.
Yes.
State unemployment benefits are usually 60 to 80%. Okay. And I did the math based upon the average salary in the United States, according to the, I forget where, the Congressional Office of Congressional Budget, or I can't remember. Anyways, it was an official government source.
OMB, Office of Management and Budget. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I pulled it off of their website. So $600 a week is 60% of the average salary in America. So they're getting 60 plus 60 plus 80, 60 plus 60 to 80% of their salary.
Mm-hmm.
So they are making out like bandits. They're on a free paid holiday with a $1,200 bonus. So all these idiots putting these memes up on Facebook about, Norway, they get this, and Sweden, they get this, and Denmark, they get this, and they get this, and then that is complete and total dishonesty straight out of hand.
Pure bullshit.
Don't follow that.
Pure bullshit.
Yeah. Loans to industries, $500 billion. The Treasury Department divvy up a $500 billion pot of loans to struggling industries like airlines, and even cities and states themselves, which is ridiculous considering the fact that the basically what's happening there is the cities and states that are going to need this are most likely going to be in blue states. So they're fleecing red states that don't have or actually, I'm sorry, this is later. So I'd written myself a note on this, but basically I'll get to this in a minute. But basically what's happening is red states who don't have a state income tax are getting fleeced, and that money is getting sent via this bill to blue states. Checks to individuals getting a $1,200 check, $2,400 for couples. They're also eligible $500 per child. This is for anybody earning under 75K. The payments start phasing out for earners of more than 99,000. And I did read also, and I'm bummed out about this, Russ, because I was like, oh sweet, I don't pay any taxes, and getting some of my past tax money back. Well, no, such is not the case, because if you don't pay any federal income taxes, it's likely that you're going to be ineligible.
Dang, really? Huh.
That's what I read. They said it would be difficult for you if you don't pay any state income tax or any federal income taxes. It would be difficult.
You know, that tracks with what I've heard. I've heard that they're going to mail the checks to the address from your 2018 income tax return. That's what I've heard. Right. So that does track. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. And yeah, that screws me because wait, when you say 20, is that income on 2017 or is that income on 2018?
Income on 2018 that you filed in 2019. Yes.
Yeah. See, I think I'm screwed because I'm covered under federal income, federal earned income tax exemption. So I pay zero in federal income taxes because they have a reciprocity agreement in place with Germany, so that I don't get double taxed.
Dang. Well, I mean, that's fantastic, but shit, I'm sorry, man. No Trump bucks for you, man. Sorry.
I know, dude. It sucks, man.
Feels bad.
I was like, yeah, I need to figure something out here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hospitals, they get their wish, $100 billion. Healthcare providers would secure $100 billion in grants to help fight coronavirus and make up for dollars they have lost by delaying elective surgeries and other procedures focused on the outbreak. which that doesn't make sense. They're still making money, whether it's an outbreak or elective surgery procedures. The airlines get $58 billion for retaining payroll. Businesses get a tax credit for keeping idled workers on their payrolls during the pandemic. So if they meet certain criteria, they can get a refund for half of what they spend on wages, up to $5,000 per worker. State and local governments get $150 billion. And this is where I was talking. The agreement would provide $150 billion for state and local governments, with $8 billion set aside for local governments who are bleeding tax revenue, as only essential businesses remain open and unemployment claims climb by tens of thousands every day. So basically, states that are bleeding state income tax revenue would qualify for more of this money. So states like Texas, who aren't bleeding tax revenue because they don't have a state income tax, are going to lose out. But because this is going through the bill, the federal government's paying it. So people in Texas, tax dollars going through this bill would be then funneled to states who are bleeding state income tax revenues, like California, which is obviously annoying, to put it mildly. Pentagon gets $10.5 billion. The Defense Department would field an infusion of $10.5 billion, including $1.5 billion for the National Guard to deploy up to 20,000 on-call soldiers. Blah 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 blah. Minimal aid for insurers. Insurers wanted an emergency fund to offset big losses stemming from the pandemic, as well as premium subsidies to fund temporary COBRA coverage for laid-off workers. They got none of that, although the legislation aims to protect them from price gouging on corona tests. So I'm happy. I mean, what the hell is your job as an insurer if not to deal with something like this and mitigate something like this?
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. You make billions of dollars to do exactly this. Indeed, sir. Indeed. Yeah.
Employers and self-funded individuals would get to defer 6.2% of their tax that they pay on wages that is used to fund Social Security. Oil companies, this bill does not include the $3 billion Trump sought to fulfill his promise this month of filling the country's oil stockpile, quote unquote, right up to the top, as a way to aid U.S. drillers amid a price decline. Democrats also failed to clinch language extending tax breaks for renewable energy industries. You know, I have to say, I mean, I'm not too upset about that either. I mean, companies, they need to tighten their belt, and they need, you know, they can't just depend on bailouts, so they don't have to tighten their belt.
Right.
And you know, if you're an oil company, getting involved in an oil price war with Saudi Arabia and Russia is something that you might have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you have to plan for that. Let's see. Telemedicine investment of $200 million. The Trump administration had $200 million for boosting Skype-style health checkups by investing in services and devices that help healthcare providers connect remotely with patients. I mean, what the hell? Skype's free.
It's true.
I mean, and the microphone through which I speak to you, dear listener, cost me $37 on Amazon, and most computers have a webcam. So I don't know what the hell telemedicine providers need $200 million for.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, we're sort of telemedicine, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
I've had people tell me this is therapeutic. We're healing the world here.
Damn straight.
No help for the homework gap. This deal is likely to omit funding that both lawmakers and the Trump administration sought to close the homework gap, the term used for the difference between families with internet connections and equipment and those without. I mean, that's one side of the gap I know exactly. I wish I was on the underprivileged side of that gap.
Yeah.
Democrats had wanted at least $2 billion to go directly to an FCC subsidy program that helps schools and libraries connect to the internet, while FCC Chairman Ajit Pai requested $50 million for a pilot program geared specifically toward helping schools. We covered this on Friday Night Comfy Post last Friday, but there are schools, private schools, charter schools that were entirely prepared for this. It was like within a week or two, they're good to go. So this is the failure of government-run schools. We're now having to bail out government-run schools because they're not prepared to deal with something like this.
Indeed.
Cruise industry relief. The bill does not appear to include any direct funding for the cruise ship industry, but Trump has called that industry a prime candidate for federal assistance. So I would expect further efforts to support that struggling sector, and I hope he does. Actually, I hope he doesn't, but for the same reasons we've already talked about. But
yeah.
I don't know. I love the cruise industry. I love cruising. It's like my favorite style of vacation.
Yeah. I'm not a cruiser myself, but I get your point. It is a very leveraged industry. They leverage to the hilt in order to build one ship. You know what I mean? So, creative destruction, I suppose. We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. They're going to be, Royal Caribbean's going to be renaming Anthem of the Seas to Trump of the Seas or to,
Yeah, that may be true. That may be true.
Retail tax fix. Retailers, restaurateurs, and hotels will be able to immediately deduct from their taxes what they spend on property improvements. They were supposed to get the write-off in 2016 tax overhaul, but a glitch. Oh, I'm sure it was a glitch. Actually made them worse off. I love when the government makes a mistake. They just, that was just a glitch.
Just a glitch. Yeah.
So that's good. I like that one. Propping up the Postal Service. The final bill would provide the already underwater U.S. Postal Service with a $10 billion Treasury loan to stave off total insolvency with a direct infusion of emergency cash. The Dems wanted $25 billion in addition to language that would wipe out its $11 billion debt. So, I mean, dude, this is just, again, the government is not set up to be a service provider. And so and here in a minute, you'll hear about Amtrak as well. The government is not set up to be a service provider. It's just not what it's supposed to do. The military dropping bombs on a city, that's not providing a service. Okay, that's destroying an enemy. The government is there for certain purposes, but providing services is not one for which it was set up.
Yeah, man. It recalls me to Rush's argument from, I think the 80s, early 90s at latest. Name one thing the government does well. There's nothing. It does well. Nothing. Everybody would always say, oh, the Postal Service, they do that well. Yeah, well, the Postal Service is kind of government-private partnership, right? And it doesn't do that well. Look at how FedEx BTFO'd the Postal Service. Seriously.
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say there's things that the government does well, but what it does well are all the things that it's supposed to do, that it's set up to do, like the courts. The United States has has the best court system in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, in Germany, it's a pain in the ass. I had to sue my former employer here because he didn't pay me my last paycheck. And from the time that I sued him, and he wasn't responding to anything, he wasn't showing up to court dates. They ruled in my favor, like without question. It took like less than an hour for the judge to just be like, this is over. And then they refused to pay. Then they sent out a warrant for their arrest. Then they had to this person had to take all these, and I had to pay them more money out of my own pocket to have them then go and take collection of their assets and things and then extract the money from them. That cost me like another $80. I was like, why the hell am I paying for this? What service are you providing here?
Right.
You would have never, and that whole process took a year. It took a year for that whole process to take place for me to just collect a paycheck. I mean, in the United States, that would have happened in a matter of, I would imagine, I don't know. I've never sued somebody in the United States like that, but I would imagine something like small claims court. I think that would be like one. Yeah, I don't think it would take a year. I think it would probably take more like weeks or months, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I've got a friend of mine who is divorcing his wife, and that is taking. It's been like 3 or 4 years, and then the courts just keep pushing it back, and he's paying like a third of his income a month to her because they have a kid together, and she doesn't even take care of the kid, or at least she takes care of the kid for like 2 weekends a month. And this has just been dragging on for like 3 years, and he's paying a third of his income to her.
Yeah.
So like the United States, yeah, I mean, you might get involved in a divorce and be on an unfortunate side of that divorce, but at least it happens quickly and it's over with,
Yeah.
quicker. At least you can get a court date within 3 to 4 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
So the courts here are just, I really miss the United States court system. I'll put it that way. And the policing, they probably do too well. We talked about this on a Friday Night Comfy post a couple weeks ago that I think because of policing quotas that there's chronic over policing. So they honestly do that. They do too good of a job of that, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And then, I mean, we've got the best military in the world far and away. So those are the 3 things that government is supposed to be doing, and they do all of them fantastically. They could be better, but they do them great. Everything else they suck at.
There is one thing they're supposed to do that they suck at, and that is defending our borders. Okay. To be fair. Okay. And they suck at it. Yeah. It's getting better, but it still sucks. So,
But to be fair, I think that's by design.
Of course. Of course it is.
I think that's sabotage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But no, that was a good point. I'm glad you pointed that out. We don't get called out on that. So, food stamps and child nutrition, $25 billion for SNAP. Ranchers get $24 billion.
Really? I didn't know that about ranchers. That's fantastic. That's great. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Farmers and ranchers get $24 billion. They get $14 billion for an obscure Depression era financial institution that USDA has wide discretion to use to stabilize the farm economy. And another $9.5 billion be set aside for emergency aid for the agriculture sector, including cattle ranchers and fresh fruit and vegetable growers. Let's see. We got 2 more here. The last one's my favorite. Emergency assistance for schools. They get $30 billion. Again, there's plenty of schools out there that don't need any emergency assistance. The final package provides more than $30 billion in emergency education funding for colleges and universities, states, and schools. And by the way, there's a lot that I'm not reading here that I had highlighted. The Dems asked for a lot more on this stuff, like on almost every one of these. And I'll read this one here as an example. House Democrats initially called for double that amount, and certain education groups have asked for significantly more help, urging the government to contribute far more toward special education costs, for example. So, this wasn't the right, coming along and like, oh, hey, you get 20 billion. Oh, you get 50 billion. You get 15 billion. They actually BTFO'd the Dems in negotiations on a lot of these.
Yes.
So just, I think that's important to point out.
Yes.
And then last one. And then before we move on, I'll run back and I'll not recap each one, but I'll read out each one. So we know we have, because this is kind of a long little bit here. So distilleries received a temporary exemption from an excise tax for alcohol they use to make hand sanitizer that's produced and distributed within Food and Drug Administration guidelines. While more Americans are drinking more at home with their local watering holes closed, press F, pay respect, the liquor store may come up short, or liquor supply may come up short. So our distilleries even benefited from this. So
thank God.
Really quick, I'll just
thank
list.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So really quick, I'll just list all these out. Beefed up unemployment benefits, loans to industries and $500 billion, individual checks on the way, hospitals get $100 billion, airlines get $58 billion, small businesses get prize for retaining employees on payroll in the form of tax exemptions, state and local governments get $150 billion, the Pentagon gets $10.5 billion. The insurers didn't get anything. Employment and self-employed individuals got a 6.2 defer 6.2% tax. Oil didn't get anything. Renewables didn't get anything. Telemedicine got $200 million. The homework, the public schooling basically got $2 billion for failing to do its job. Cruise industry did not get anything. Retail tax got tax deduction. Postal service got $10 billion. Food stamps and child nutrition got $25 billion. Farmers ranchers $24 billion. Emergency assistance for schools got $30 billion, and distilleries get a tax exemption. So that's the stimulus package, or at least that's those are all of the main points. There's also some pork in here, which I'll get to. But first, I'm going to pass it off to Russ to talk about Pelosi's nonsense that she introduced into all of this on Sunday night.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Dear listener, this was absolutely unconscionable what this bitch tried to pull off. I'm serious. It was absolutely unconscionable. Absolute guaranteed funding for Planned Parenthood. $300 million to the New York Center for Performing Arts. Is that what it's called? Something like that, right?
Yeah, also the Kennedy Center as well.
The Kennedy Center as well. Yep, that's correct, right? Same day voting registration in her bill, right? Same day voter. Get this. What it means, dear listener, is you register to vote and then you go vote. Restriction on voter ID laws. Okay. Everybody can vote. That's what it was. That's what she was trying to do. Okay. Oh man. Let me just think of a little bit more. You know what? I'm not gonna think about it right now. I have a clip here that I'm going to play for you, dear listener. It's from Laura Ingram's show from this past Thursday, I believe it was. Okay. And she interviews Kevin McCarthy. Now, I have to say before I play this clip, Kevin McCarthy was not my pick for the minority leader in the House. Okay. I wanted Jim Jordan, right? Kevin McCarthy is not Freedom Caucus, but Luke, I have to say, Kevin McCarthy has done a damn fine job in his position as House Minority Leader. I think he's done fantastic, you know? So he explains it.
I would agree.
Yeah. He explains it pretty well. And so I'm just going to play this drop right here. It's a little bit of time, dear listener. I might zoom around, right? But bear with us and enjoy. Here we go.
It's a big amount of money, a lot of money. That was President Trump from earlier today touting the economic aid package that passed the Senate last night, 96-0. The House is expected to pass the stimulus bill tomorrow with bipartisan support. And a surprising twist, Nancy Pelosi, well, she's taking credit for it all.
We did jujitsu on it, that it went from a corporate first proposal that the Republicans put forth in the Senate to a workers first, Democratic workers first legislation.
Joining me now is House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Congressman, was Nancy Pelosi's 80th birthday, I believe, today, but did she give herself a little gift there? Is that what happened to make this $2 trillion bill better?
I know it's her birthday, but it does not give her the right to lie. 99% of this bill was already decided on Sunday. She held the bill up. And look what we just found out today. Almost 3.3 million Americans just lost their job last week.
Fact.
While she was holding this bill up. For why? Because she wanted to change election law. She wanted Planned Parenthood to be funded. She wanted the Green New Deal, and she wanted more money for sanctuary cities. That's what she was requesting. That's what we kept out of it. This bill is just about where it was. She did get $24 million more for the Kennedy Center. That's her jujitsu. That's the only thing they're able to do. And think about what this bill does. Provides funding for those who need it by the income level. We provide money for hospitals that are in crisis right now. But then we take the small business where millions of Americans work for, and we provide funding. We give them a loan. But you know the big part of it? If you pay your rent and you keep people employed, that is a grant from government. We're trying to keep people employed in this nation while we go through this.
Yeah, yes. Congressman, I'm hearing from a lot of business owners.
All right, let's just stop it right there. Okay, because this is very important. Kevin McCarthy breaks it down perfectly right there, dear listener. What the Democrats did in this moment was they tried to advance their agenda. Okay. The Republicans were entirely correct on this. For once, they were entirely correct. They were trying to bail out the economy and help the American consumer. That was all they were trying to do. But what the Democrats did instead was took this moment to advance their agenda, right? Their pet projects. And thereby they revealed themselves that they don't care about you. They don't care about America. They don't care about the American worker. No, they're agenda driven and agenda driven only. And it was exposed by people like Kevin McCarthy and Luke and I right now, if I may say, which I do. So they lost. They lost in a big way. And the most crucial point here is what Luke just called out, right? Everything that they were trying to get funding for got reduced. Even in the House, where the Democrats are the majority, everything was pulled back, right? So when Nancy Pelosi tells you, okay, we've got a more worker-centric bill now. It's less of a corporate bailout. Oh my God. Okay. She's lying. Okay. Now, Luke, I do want to give the Democrats one little bit of credit and one little bit of credit only. In that bill that Nancy Pelosi was advancing, and it worked its way into the final stimulus bill, there was language that involved forbidding corporations to buy back their own stock with this stimulus. Okay. That's fantastic. Okay. If, every now and then Democrats prove to be useful enemies. So
were they the ones that I thought Trump was all in on that?
He was.
I thought he was the one that was like, we need this.
He was. Yeah, he was. He was all in on it, but the Republicans were not. Okay. Yeah.
But the Democrats introduced it.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
And then Trump backed it at the
Trump called for it. Yeah, Trump called for it. And then the Democrats did it. Yeah, the Democrats followed Trump's lead on this about corporate buybacks. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. So there you have it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes they're useful. You know what I mean? Shit libs though they are, sometimes they're useful, even though they want you dead, your family dead, take away your guns, you live under authoritarian control. Every now and then they do something useful. And I have to give them credit. They did something useful. Yeah. And that made it into the final stimulus package. Mad credit to them. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there were some other things they slipped in there. They slipped in but got removed. And I mean, what Kevin McCarthy listed out there is just a small.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the other things that were listed were, let's see. So first of all, what she submitted was 1,119 pages. What actually was passed was 800. So Nancy Pelosi added 400 pages. She increased she increased it by 50%.
Yeah, she's good at that, ain't she? Yeah. We have to pass it to find out what's in it. Oh my God, like she did with Obamacare. Yeah, her bill was a 1,400 page bill. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And early voting, she included, you already listed that, Russ.
Mm-hmm.
Same day voter registration. Corporate diversity.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm actually reading. This is direct from what she submitted. Corporate board demographic data, including total number of board members, gender, race, and ethnic identity of board members, and to the extent possible, results disaggregated by ethnic group as otherwise known or provided voluntary board position titles, as well as any leadership and committee assignments. Also pay equity across the boards. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, and it goes on,
It does.
Requiring airlines to hit certain emission standards if they want to take part in the stand.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was stealth.
Outrageous.
It was stealth green new death is what it was. Stealth green new death that they slipped in there in that 1,400 page bill. That's what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did slip in there a thing about, let me make sure. Yeah, this was published 23 hours ago. This is actually what our friend sent us. Coronavirus aid packages forces mid-sized companies to agree not to break up unions or outsource jobs that they want to slice the $2 trillion stimulus.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, businesses looking for coronavirus-related relief from the federal government must agree to, quote, remain neutral in any union organizing effort, end quote, in order to secure a loan per the United States economic stimulus package. Under a section titled Assistance for Mid-Sized Businesses, the package said that businesses and eligible nonprofit outfits with 500 to 10,000 employees. Okay. A 10,000 employee company, that is a huge ass company.
Indeed.
There are public companies with less than 10,000 employees.
Yes, there are. Yeah. Yeah.
The package said that businesses eligible to receive between 500 and 10,000 employees could receive direct loans from the federal government. These loans would have interest rates of up to 2% and no interest or principal due for the first 6 months. But before receiving any money, these companies seeking aid must agree to a few requirements put forth in the package around unions, outsourcing jobs, and stock buybacks. Loan recipients must also agree that the loan would, quote, be used to retain at least 90% of the recipient's workforce at full compensation benefit until September 30th, 2020. The package's language include further caveats for loan recipients, including an agreement that businesses on the receiving end of the package will not, quote, outsource or offshore jobs or nix, quote, existing collective bargaining agreements for 2 years after paying off the loan. I mean,
okay, I got to give the Democrats credit once again. They slipped that in there, and I think for now it's good. I think it's good. Anyway, sorry to
not the
sorry.
existing collective bargaining agreements.
No.
I mean, here's
outsourcing jobs on federal bailout money is what I mean. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, on federal bailout money. Yeah, for sure. I don't necessarily. I mean, I'm not against outsourcing or offshoring, but not at the taxpayer's expense.
Right.
But the nixing existing collective bargaining agreements. I mean, that seems it's only for 2 years, first of all, but also, I mean, really, the only. I mean, unions are so powerful at this point. It's so the relationship is so one-sided in favor of the unions that they would have already they would have already deunionized their business.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so that the only places unions really exist are places where businesses can't operate without a collective bargaining agreement legally.
Right. You
know, we don't really have this problem in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if a business were going to nix their collective bargaining agreement, they first have to exist in a place in which they could.
Right.
And all of the places where you have unions are places where they have to.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really see that having a huge impact.
Yeah, it's pretty much same as usual. I think what is the intelligent comment to make about this is that what in the hell does that have to do with the Kung flu? What in the hell does that have to do with it? Right. And
that's a fair criticism.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And so the entire Nancy Pelosi bill, dear listener, and she got her ass exposed for this week. None of it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say very quickly. I think the reason that she gave in so quickly and so completely, which she basically did. I mean, she won the Kennedy Center. Oh no, how will we ever recover the Kennedy Center's operating again? You know, I think that totally edifies your point that she jumped off that wagon super quick, fast, and in a hurry because she exposed her ass.
I agree,
and she got exposed for it.
Yeah, I agree. And
props. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to.
You go. It's all good. Go ahead, man.
I was gonna say, and props to Dan Crenshaw, Matt Gaetz, McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, all of these guys for totally calling them on.
Yes, indeed. I
mean, I think the Republicans of yesteryear would have been like, "Oh, come on, Nancy. Oh, okay." Oh man.
Yeah. You know, and the ultimate credit, since we're calling out credit right now, goes to our President Trump, for maintaining control. Right? He's made some mistakes here and there. I think the Easter promise that we're all going to be back to work at Easter is a little bit problematic. Okay. It is more of an aspiration than it is a promise, but I wouldn't have put it that way. Nonetheless, this man is up here leading, right? And regarding this stimulus bill that Luke and I are talking about, the president literally said, y'all stop squawking, okay? We've got people to help right now. Any bill you put in front of me right now after you're bitching, I'll sign it. And he did, right? And so credit, Mr. President. We know you listen to the show. Mad props and thank you. So thank you for your leadership. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, you make a good point. He remained very neutral in all of that.
He sure did. Yeah.
Like he didn't go running for a mic going, Nancy Pelosi just crammed all the stuff in the bill, everybody.
Yeah.
He remained neutral.
Yeah.
Man, I have to say, dude, Trump's like presidentiality factor has like really come alive.
I couldn't agree more. Know? Yeah. He has.
It only took a global pandemic for Trump. For Trump's presidentiality to come out, but
yeah, I suppose. Yeah. And he's winning, right? He is winning, and things are still happening. The border got shut down. Dear listener, we're not taking any amnesty requests at all. No, man. In the time of Kung Flu, no amnesty requests. Sorry. Get back across the border. We talked about that in number 74. Go check it out. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Europe as well.
Yeah. I
mean, the immigration crisis that's been going on in Europe for a few years now has just Corona just eviscerated the immigration crisis.
Indeed. Yep. Yeah. But man, I do have to say, I do think President Trump is doing so fantastically right now. You know, I wish he hadn't said that Easter thing, right? That's a big gamble, Luke. And it could be a presidential re-election gamble that he took when he said we're going to be back to work by Easter on April 12th. We'll see how it goes. You know what I mean? I think it was more of a goalpost, right? But Trump gets the situation here. And that is, dear listener, we're essentially in martial law right now. Okay. Essentially, right? If in my locale right now, if you get busted going anywhere but to a grocery store, to a doctor, or to a pharmacy, if you get busted doing that, you get fined $1,000. $1,000.
Are you allowed to exercise outside? I go for a walk.
I don't think so. I'm serious.
It's the same here, but you are allowed to go for you're allowed to walk, go for a walk, or for example, I take since I can't get to my gym, I bought some gymnastic rings and I take those and I find some, which is weirdly difficult to find a horizontal bar or tree anywhere.
Indeed.
I don't know how that's so difficult, but
yeah.
Anyways, I found one and I'd take my rings there and set them up and get in a good workout, and then go home.
Yeah. Yeah. I do not think in my locale, you're strictly allowed to do that, but I do see people walking their dogs, lovers taking walks. I mean, it's the exception. It's not the rule. I see it every now and again. I mean, Luke, where I'm at right now, when you see another person, it's like, dang, there's another human being. Hey, what's up, fellow human? It's like that right now. I actually think where I'm at right now, maybe a little bit more paranoid and restrictive than Germany at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, Germans, they grew up hearing stories from their grandparents about World War II and rationing and stuff. So they're kind of like, whatever about how they just take it all on the chin, man.
Indeed. Yep. But,
no, you got to get in that workout.
Yeah. Well,
William Wallace once said that Corona can take our freedom, but you can never take our gains.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, man, strange days indeed. I mean, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen, Luke. Seriously, it is, right? Government response is so strange. Society is so strange. Let's save that for segment 2, man. It's just strange, man.
We could talk about all this stuff. I got more. I mean, there's something that I want to talk about is how this has just driven a lot of these leftists. Even it's like they don't even have Trump derangement syndrome. It's just literally just derangement syndrome.
Indeed.
Now.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm. I've got a Facebook friend saying that the GOP is a death cult. He said multiple times. Dude, you need to move from your geographic location for about 6 months. Maybe disappear into the forest for a little while, find yourself again, maybe research going to a Buddhist temple for a little while.
Yeah. And listen, dear listener, Luke and I are no lovers of the Republican Party, right? We're not. We kind of hate them most of the times. They happen to be correct in the previous week. They are correct, right?
I wouldn't say that. I would say the old Republican Party for sure.
Fair enough. Indeed. Yeah. Fair enough.
But I think everybody pretty much feels that way on the left and right today. I don't think we're in the minority here on that front.
Yeah,
but the way the Republican Party of today you know, I'm very much a fan of, I have to say.
Yeah, man. You know, and dear listener, Luke and I have talked about it numerous times about how it went down this way. Okay. So go back and listen to previous episodes. We did it for the first time in episode, I think, number 1, Luke, right? That the Republican Party under Donald Trump reformed itself in a way that the Democrat Party remains recalcitrant right now, right? They want to hang on to their own power right now. These Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton,
Chuck Schumer
types, right? Their real threat right now, they personify it in the form of Donald Trump, but their real threat right now is the Social Justice League. So go back and listen to previous episodes about that. Yeah. And we covered that one in number 6, I do recall. Number 6. So, yeah. So, anyway, I mean, dang, Luke. I mean, the Republican Party, we progressive now? Is that what's up? We progressive now?
What do you mean by that?
We changed. We evolved. And they don't. The progressive
we
party.
Progressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're totally stagnating. They're being torn apart.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
they're being torn apart in multiple directions. It was just the Justice League Democrats, but you know, now it's, you know, you've got Stands with Beer, Stood with the Beer over here, who's kind of pulling in one direction, which is this weird nebulous blend of social democracy and mainstream Democrats. I mean, I think that was her problem all along, is she had no branding. She couldn't really communicate her ideas concretely. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and the left just still hasn't melted down. You know, they're just
right,
still being torn to pieces by a bunch of jackals.
Yeah, it's true. And it really indicates, Luke, it really proves, right, how solid their political structure has always been and how fragile the Republican political structure had always been until Donald Trump came along, right? Do you see what I mean? Yeah. That's why the left always won on everything, because the Republicans were a bunch of limp-wristed cucks, all of them, right? Until Donald Trump, right? And then they all grew a sack and reformed themselves, progressed, right? And now,
I wouldn't say all of them, though, to be fair.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
You did have the Freedom Caucus there the whole time, sort of just like
Louis
laying
Gohmert,
idle.
Yeah. Mark Meadows. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All of them except for the guys that we all hear about now, which is our whole point.
Yeah, exactly so. Exactly so. Yeah. But that Democrat order that ran things for the last, 20, 30 years, they remain very powerful, and they disable reform within their own party at this moment. You know, it's fascinating to see. It's fascinating. And dear listener, this is why Luke and I are talking about the stimulus package, because this was all exemplified this week, perfectly laid bare for everyone to see. And Luke, I suspect a red pilling moment right here, because I think everybody does see it. You know what I mean? They're blaming everything on Trump, right? Trump's just like, you know what? We're just trying to figure it out right now. We're trying to make more ventilators. We're trying to get more masks. We're just trying to figure things out. I'll defer to my experts here behind me to answer your questions, right? He's leading. In other words, he's leading. And I think people see this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. At the moment, depending on what the Federal Reserve does right now. Okay. Well, actually, we know what they did, but we're probably not going to get into it, dear listener. But if we have time, we'll get into it. Depending on the Easter promise, right? Things like this, I see no way he loses. And by the way, I see Joe Biden nowhere right now. Nowhere, right? Tries to bitch about the president here and there and really can't complete a sentence. It's sad, man. It's sad.
Did you see? Dude, did you? Oh my God. I think I sent this to you in the chat. The audio clip for Biden. Can I send it to you, please? Yes, I did. Dude, No, yeah. So Biden's been doing these super cringy and terrible gaffing from home videos. Go back up, and I posted in the chat. I said audio bite for today's show, and just click that.
Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, yeah.
It's the Jimmy Kimmel show. Okay. Just play that.
All right.
This is such a good example of where Biden is today.
All right, here we go. All right, I've pasted the link. It's Twitter. Twitter sucks, dear listener, for video. But here we go. It's muted.
What's that hat you have on?
New York Mets. It's supposed to be opening day.
Opening day.
Biden puts on a hat.
You know what? This is not the way to win voters, Mr. Vice President.
I'll tell you what, but it's a way to be able to sleep with my wife.
Now, hello, Joe Biden.
Wait, what? It's a way to be able to sleep with my wife?
That's what he says live on Jimmy Kimmel show. Like remotely from home.
Oh my God.
What sports team is that? It was a red hat with a P on it. I don't know.
Phillies.
Sports.
Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I can just, well, no, I can't imagine. I'm not going to, but Biden's wife, like, Joe, if you want to have sex with me, you need to put the Phillies hat on.
And lick my finger. Please lick my finger.
Lick my finger, smell my hair, and wear that Phillies hat. Yeah. I am red hot right now.
Oh my God. Perish the thought. It is so disgusting to think about. But yeah. So did you hear about this shit about Tucker coming out saying, finally, Tucker is agreeing with me? We know, Tucker, we know you listen to the show. We know you do. Okay. So I'm glad that you're coming around to our opinion that he thinks Joe Biden will not be the nominee. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I saw that. In fact, I've got a piece for it here.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
We can hit that really quick, and then I still have to hit that pork, and then we can
fair
go
enough.
to break.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tucker said, he goes, I sincerely and totally believe that Joe Biden will not be the Democratic nominee on Election Day. How does that math work? Another podcast host pressed. It's not about math. It's about will. Carlson said, saying the Democratic Party is, quote, intent on taking power. Two competing imperatives. We've got to win, but we've got a guy who can't win. Therefore, they're going to replace him, Carlson continued. He's not going to make it, and the people around him know that. Trust me, I know them. And I know that they know it because they've said it to me.
Yeah, that's exactly the quote I have. And by the way, the article, you have Daily Wire, right? I've got Gateway, right?
I've got a Washington Examiner piece.
Oh, dang. Okay. Do you have it to where he gets to the point where he predicts who the Dem nominee will be?
No, but dude, I want to know who is it. I have to know because I have an idea. I've got a theory.
Okay. Now, before I reveal, dear listener, I still think it's Michelle Obama or maybe Hillary. Okay. Tucker picked Andrew Cuomo. He thinks Andrew Cuomo in this crisis is being memed into reality. He may not be wrong. He may be correct.
Dude, that was going to be my guess.
Andrew Cuomo? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, man, he's hogging up the airtime right now. He does 2 pressers a day about the Kung Flu. And, it seemed like he and Trump they had kind of made peace there for a little bit, but then he started bitching about the president again. And this is what's interesting. Trump and Cuomo go way back, right? They know each other well, right? So if it comes down to this matchup, dang. I mean, I actually think that's, you know what? You just convinced me. And it's for this reason. Okay. Andrew Cuomo is expendable. Michelle Obama is not. Whoever runs against the president right now is going to lose. They're going to lose. Now, I'm not saying let's get confident and don't go vote, dear listener. I'm not saying that. But whoever, and if things don't conspire, the economy, for example, to cost Trump the election, there's no way he loses. Okay. But Andrew Cuomo is expendable. Michelle Obama is not. she cannot be lost in an election lost to Trump. You heard what I'm saying, Luke? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I hear your argument. That's a fascinating point. I have to say, our friend down south of you, about 5 hours.
Yeah.
He told me, he said he thinks they're grooming him for 2024. And literally, like an hour later, all these grumblings and articles start getting posted about how he might actually be up for 2020.
Dang.
That's why I said it. I had no idea that Tucker Carlson said that.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did.
So I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Cuomo 2020.
Yeah. Hashtag me too. But damn,
and he was on the short list of possible candidates.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
going into the Democrat primaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. And oh man. And you know what? To his credit, he's doing a fairly good job of leadership in New York. Fairly good job. You know what I mean? I wish he would stop bitching about the president, because the president is giving him everything he wants despite his squawking. You know what I mean?
Including a freaking Navy medical ship.
Yeah, man. So, so there you have it. 2 New Yorkers running for president. Sucks, man.
I know.
Actually, a Floridian and a New Yorker running for president. It's fine. It's cool. No problem.
Well, let me list out this pork that's in this bill, and then we'll take a break. How about that?
Yeah, bring it.
All right. So I've got an article from a place which we've never here in these hallowed halls of HSP sourced before, or used, I should say, TexasScorecard.com. So the name of the article is "Despite Stimulus Bill Filled with Wasteful Spending." So it says, let's take a look at some of the spending approved in the bill. $300 million to the Social Security Administration. The money would not be going directly to senior citizens. Instead, the funds are directed, quote, to help SSA keep up with key workloads, make up for lost productivity, and otherwise improve ability of the agency to serve the public, end quote. $1 billion, roughly $1.018 billion to Amtrak for operating assistance to cover revenue losses related to coronavirus. In addition, funding is provided to help states pay for their share of the cost of state-supported routes, end quote. I mean, how is that any different? They always lose money.
Right.
You know, they haven't turned a profit since 1971.
Exactly.
So they just chronically rely on billions of dollars of government subsidies. So they're just, their revenue model is like, oh God, when's the next disaster? Please.
Yes,
we're about to go under.
Yes.
Global pandemic, terrorist attack. We don't care. Just whatever.
Yeah.
We need a stimulus bill. Economic collapse. That would be fantastic.
It's so funny, dude. So true. Yeah. And, let me give the Republicans a little bit of credit right here. Okay. Now, the Fed is bailing out all corporations, right? The Democrats actually helped, like we said earlier, to not bail out corporations in the stimulus bill, okay? To bail out the American worker, right? And that's where that bill is going, right? But, dude, I'm about to curse. I can't do it. This company has been relying on the federal government forever. They are a permanent bailout company. Kill them. I'm serious. Kill them. Let them go.
I agree. You don't need to kill them. Let them die on their own.
Yeah, let them die.
I mean, but seriously, like, also, how about maybe they could turn a profit? This is something that we kind of got into on the last show, which is like, it's kind of hard also at the same time to blame some of these companies when the government, regulates them such that they can't turn a profit. So like,
indeed.
The reason we don't have passenger rail in the United States is because there's a regulation which says that all passenger trains must at all times yield to freight trains.
Yeah, that's right.
So passenger side, they'll just sit off the side of the track for 5 hours waiting for a freight train to go by.
That's right, man. Yeah.
So that's why we don't have, and that sucks. I like train is one of my favorite ways to travel.
Hashtag me too. I love it. Yeah.
Here in Europe, if I'm, like last summer, I went to Vienna, which is, 8 or 10 hour drive from my location. and I don't remember, it's like a 6 to 8 hour on train. I will take the train every time. I love the trains. I love to sit in the dining car, get a cup of coffee, read, work, because they have Wi-Fi. At some point, transition to beer. Like
indeed.
You know what I mean, dude? I love that. Have conversations.
I do too.
People come in, they sit down. You can actually take in the views because you're not having to drive. I love driving too. Don't get me wrong, but I love trains, and it's such a tragedy that we don't have, train travel in the U.S. But I mean, another problem is that, like, if you take a train from Houston to Dallas, I mean, what the hell are you going to do when you get to Dallas? You got to get somebody to come get you or something like this. And I don't know. I mean, the same applies to an airplane as well. So I guess that's not really a valid argument. But
no, but it's nonetheless true. It is,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, remove all the regulations. I mean, don't bail them out, but remove all the regulations that may be impeding their ability, their path to productivity, and then let them survive or die on their own.
Yeah.
So, anyway, 5 more. I'll try and keep these brief. $353 million to the Agency for International Development. So, in addition to helping the American people, hundreds of millions of dollars will be allocated to assisting other countries. And then the article goes on, $258 million is specifically marked for, quote, international disaster assistance in order to, quote, continue to address humanitarian health needs in coronavirus affected areas abroad, end quote. So that's $350 million.
Yeah.
To helping other countries deal with corona.
Yeah.
$350 million. Oh, Russ, you're about to get triggered.
Oh God. Okay.
You're about to get triggered here. $350 million for refugee resettlement.
Yeah. That did it. Yeah. That did it. You know what? I knew that was in there. And by the way, if I'm not incorrect, I think that got negotiated down, right? So I'm pleased in a way that it's only $350 million because I think originally it was 600 mil, I think. Yeah.
For non-citizen refugees, migrants, and immigrants, while millions of Americans file for unemployment.
Yeah.
What's that? What was that one meme where it's like this $350 million, so like you could give every American $1 million?
Yeah. Just so.
Yeah, there was a meme that went on Twitter because some dumbass was like, "Oh yeah, this is $350 million. You could give every American $1 million."
Yeah.
No, there's about 350 million Americans. That means you can give each one of them $1.
$1.
And so this meme went on Twitter where everyone was like, if I have $1 billion, am I able to give every American $10 billion?
Indeed. Yeah, that was enjoyable. It was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
All right. So we kind of already touched on this one, $150 million to the National Endowments for the Arts and Humanities. So, quote, this is for, quote, funding the state arts agencies and other partners in an effort to help local, state, and regional communities provide continued access to cultural organizations and institutions of learning, end quote. We explicitly hit on this one, $25 million to the Kennedy Center for deep cleaning, increased teleworking abilities, and operating and administrative expenses to ensure the center will resume normal operations immediately upon reopening. Or cleaning the Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
And $75 million for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is the organization that subsidizes PBS and NPR. And this was for, quote, stabilization grants to maintain programming services and preserve small and rural public telecommunication standards. Oh, yeah, or stations. I'm sure the left, they're really concerned about those rural people.
Yeah, right.
And those rural people clinging to their guns and Bibles.
Right.
Or maybe it's that it's part of the propaganda machine. You know what I mean? It's like, we've got the people in the city centers. We've got those people captured. We need to propagandize those rural people.
That's exactly what it is, Luke, because listen, I'm going to rant here for 1 minute less, right? CPR, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, came out this week and they were like, oh my God, we're going to stop covering the Trump press conferences about the Kung flu because he's spreading so much misinformation. He's just lying. And so we're not going to cover him anymore. You know what? Cut him off. Cut him off. That's what you do. You don't fund them. You cut them off. Right. And so this is Democrat pork being laundered into the bill so that they can continue to propagandize. Essentially, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That made me mad, man. When they came out and said that, I was like, how dare you? Seriously. How dare you? How dare you?
God, we need to start doing drops in the show, man.
I know, man. We gotta work that out. Yeah, we gotta work that out. Yeah.
But in total, dear listener, we're looking at, of the $2 trillion relief bill, we are looking at $340 billion in being pork.
God.
So we got all of Nancy Pelosi's BS out of there, the corporate diversity and with the airlines and cruise ships taking, sustainability requirements. We got all that out of there, thankfully. But of the $2 trillion, it's looking like about 17% or 16% rather to just straight up pork, which actually, dude, I would be interested in looking at old stimulus. Something tells me old stimulus packages were probably much worse.
Yeah, that may be true. Actually, no, that's factually true. Both Bush's bailout and Obama's bailout were worse percentage-wise. They were wholly bailing out shitlibs and corporations, right? So, now that we got it down to 16% in order to help the American people, to give them back their own money, essentially, when you get right down to it, yeah, that's fine. Again, as Trump said, I'll sign anything you give me. Just stop your bitching and just get me a bill and I'll sign it, And so, yeah, such is representative democracy. That's it. Such it is. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, let's do audio break. Do you want to tell dear listener about the break?
Yeah. All right. Dear listener, first of all, thank you so much for joining us on our 75th diamond anniversary. We are halfway down the trail right now. Okay. Now, I watched Tucker Carlson on Monday night, and I thought his opening monologue was an absolute masterstroke, right? And it happened right after Trump gave the press briefing about the Kung flu. Okay. So Trump, this is what it means, Luke. Trump did the Q&A. He was like, oh, it's 8:00. It's time for Tucker to come on. I'm going to bail now. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And so Tucker could do his show. That's what it is. So
this is hilarious.
It is. So this is Tucker's opening monologue. Luke, it's about a 7-minute drop. So we got to refresh Bevs and all that stuff pretty quick. You good for it? You good?
Yeah. That's no problem.
All right. Dear listener, thank you so much for riding along halfway down this 75-mile trail. I've got Tucker here for you. Enjoy. Luke and I will be back at you before you know it.
There was the President of the United States wrapping up a lengthy news conference in the briefing room at the White House. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. For so many people, it was a very long weekend. We hope you made it through and thrived with the ones you love. By many estimates, a lot is going to change this week. We hope they're wrong, but they're telling us that will especially be true in the country's largest city. Of America's 42,000 confirmed cases of the Chinese coronavirus, fully half are now in New York, and the number is growing by the thousands every day.
Number of positive cases, we are up to 20,000 statewide, 5,000 new cases, which is obviously a significant increase.
So for perspective on that number, just 2 weeks ago, there were not 1,000 cases in the entire country. Tonight, a single state can add 5,000 cases in 24 hours. Steep curve. This morning, the Surgeon General of the United States predicted that the worst is yet to come.
I didn't expect that I'd be on the Today Show for such a somber occasion. I want America to understand this week it's going to get bad, and we really need to come together as a nation. I heard the stories that you were just playing. Young people out on beaches. We see here in D.C. that the district set up a cam for people to watch the cherry blossoms. You look on the cam, you see more people walking around than you see cherry blossoms. And this is how the spread is occurring.
It's going to get bad this week. So what does that mean exactly? What could that look like? Well, in Italy, which is maybe the best model we have, deaths peaked on Saturday. There was a death toll of almost 800 that day. So scaled to a country the size of ours, that means 4,000 deaths a day. That's more than the number of people killed on 9/11. So in the face of this threat, which is profound, we have shut down the country by and large. For more than a week now, millions of Americans have been ordered to stay in their homes. This was not done lightly. Medical authorities believe isolation is vital to slowing the spread of the disease. Many of them have been thinking about this question and planning for pandemics for decades. What we're doing now, or trying to do, grows from as close to a consensus as you're going to find in science at the moment. We've quarantined much of our population because informed people thought we had no choice. It was a decision, whatever else it was, that was made in good faith. But there's another side to that decision. The shutdown has come at a terrible cost for an awful lot of people. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs. An economic crash clearly looms in the near distance, and that's not a small thing. It could change this country forever, more even than the virus itself. Americans have never been more grateful for their doctors and their nurses and their scientists, and for very good reason. These are the people working and exposing themselves to great risk to save us from the scourge. But the truth is, you can't just let epidemiologists run a country of 320 million people, just as you would never turn America over to a team of economists. Not because they're bad people, they're mostly good people, but they are specialists, and their range of vision is too narrow. As in everything, you need balance. So what's the right balance here? How do you keep Americans from dying of this plague, which is essential, while preserving a strong and independent country for your children and your grandchildren? We're paid to formulate very clear views on things, but the truth is the answer to that question is not clear right now. And anyone who tells you it is, anyone you see peddling pat answers on television, is either misleading you on purpose or hasn't really thought about it. It's a very tough question, and answering it correctly is vital. So tonight we're going to do something we've never done before. We're inviting on two guests who have essentially opposing perspectives, but they're not here to debate. We respect both of them. We believe they both want what is best for this country. So listen to them, and maybe the answer will become a little bit clearer. Joining us first is Dr. Brendan Carr. He's the chairman of the emergency medicine at Mount Sinai Hospital, and he joins us tonight. Doctor, thanks a lot for coming on. So
thanks very much for having me.
We haven't, of course, imposed a nationwide lockdown. We've done it in some places. Judging from the numbers that are available from those places, do you think it's doing what it was supposed to do? Is it working?
It's a good question, that I think we just don't know the answer to yet. We have to remember the lead time on this virus is pretty long. The median time that people feel symptoms is 5 days. Most will have it by 11 days after an exposure. So our social distancing experiments have not been the full duration that we would need to see a change in the slope of the new incidence of disease.
So give us a sense, purely from a medical perspective, leaving out economic or social considerations. But if you're an epidemiologist trying to slow the spread of the disease, how long would a quarantine need to last to be effective, do you think?
Yeah, I guess there's two pieces. One is how long it would need to last, right? And we would need to see the slope of the curve change, right? This we've been waiting, all of us have been waiting for this curve to change. But the second piece is we need to be thoughtful about how well we're doing it, how well we are actually following the rules and trying to distance ourselves. I'll tell you, I've been in 6 of our emergency departments in the Mount Sinai Health System in New York City over the last couple of days, and it is. It's always a stark difference to leave the emergency department when you have very, very, very heavy conversations and make hard decisions with folks and then go out into the public and you see people enjoying life. It's even more stark and more exaggerated now to see that contrast, mostly because the frontline providers are afraid and we're the last line of defense. We need that first line of defense. We need the social distancing, which seems so easy to help us.
I think that message has definitely penetrated to most people who are paying attention, but maybe some of the details haven't. So if you were in charge of the response, and again, just looking at this from a purely medical perspective, how do you keep more people from getting this and dying from it? What would that look like? How long would it be, and what would it mean specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you the answer. The truth is, until we see a change in the number of new cases, until it's going flat or going down, no one can make that decision. We have to reassess all the time as we see the slope change. I'm sorry.
So this morning we got a text. That's a very telling decision, because you're hearing people act as if they know the answer. And it's interesting to hear you confirm that it's a moving target. It
is very much a moving target.
All right, dear listener, we got cut off in the middle of that clip. It is rather triggering, okay, because that was God tier messaging, okay? But what is missing from that clip is the second part of it, which is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick from Texas talking to Tucker about this, and he got absolutely roasted for what he said for no reason whatsoever. And I have it queued up. We are going to play Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's response to that argument. Give us a few more minutes. This is a 5-minute clip. Enjoy. Luke and I'll be back at you before you know it.
Politician, and if you host a talk show, you get a lot of texts from politicians all pushing their own perspective in their program and spinning you. But this one was very different. It was from the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, who's been on this show before. He said something very long and thoughtful, and I just want to share part of it here because it's worth hearing. He wrote this, quote, "I don't pretend to be speaking for everyone 70 plus, but I think there are lots of grandparents out there who would agree with me that I want my grandchildren to live in the America I did. I want them to have a shot at the American dream. But right now, this virus, which all the experts say that 98% of all people will survive, is killing our country in another way. It could bring about a total economic collapse and potentially a collapse of our society. So I say, let's give this a few more days or weeks, but after that, let's go back to work and go back to living. Those who want to shelter in place can still do so, but we can't live with this uncertainty." Lieutenant Governor Patrick agreed to join us tonight. We're happy that he did. Lieutenant Governor, thanks so much for coming on. So you made clear, and I wanted you to say this and not me, but you made clear in this letter that you sent that you're in the category of people who face real risk from this disease. And I thought that kind of put it into perspective a little. Would you explain that?
Yeah, I turned 70 next week, Tucker. And, I sent you a note about a week ago that something has been really heavy on my heart since this started. And, so I'm automatically in the high risk pool. And I'm, as Lieutenant Governor, I work 12 or 15 hours a day, mostly from home now, but I travel when I need to. I'm living smart, listening to the president, the CDC guidelines, like all people should. But I'm not living in fear of COVID-19. What I'm living in fear of is what's happening to this country. And, Tucker, no one reached out to me and said, as a senior citizen, are you willing to take a chance on your survival in exchange for keeping the America that all America loves for your children and grandchildren? And if that's the exchange, I'm all in. And that doesn't make me noble or brave or anything like that. I just think there are lots of grandparents out there in this country, like me. I have 6 grandchildren, that what we all care about and what we love more than anything are those children. And I want to, live smart and see through this, but I don't want the whole country to be sacrificed. And that's what I see. I've talked to hundreds of people, Tucker, and just in the last week, and making calls all the time. And everyone says pretty much the same thing, that we can't lose our whole country. We're having an economic collapse. I'm also a small businessman. I understand it. And I talk with business people all the time, Tucker. And my heart is lifted tonight by what I heard the president say, because we can do more than, one thing at a time. We can do 2 things. So, my message is that let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country. Don't do that. Don't ruin this great American dream.
You're basically saying that this disease could take your life, but that's not the scariest thing to you. There's something that would be worse than dying.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to do everything I can to live, but if you said, are you willing to take a chance? And if I get sick, I'll go and try to get better. But if I don't, I don't. And I'm not trying to think in any kind of morbid way, Tucker. But I'm just saying that we got a choice here, and we're going to be in a total collapse recession, depression, collapse in our society. If this goes on another several months, there won't be any jobs to come back to for many people. So I'm going to be smart. I think all of my fellow grandparents out there are going to be smart. We all want to live. We want to live with our grandchildren as long as we can. But the point is, our biggest gift we give to our country and our children and our grandchildren is the legacy of our country. And right now that is at risk. And I feel like, as the president said, the mortality rate is so low. Do we have to shut down the whole country for this? I think we can get back to work. And I think we should wait out his time. And if he says we need another week, I trust his judgment. But we have to have a time certain. We can't say in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. Right. These businesses can't wait that long. So, Tucker, I intend to be around a long time on your show. But it's worth whatever it takes to save the country. Hey, thanks, Tucker.
And I'm grateful you came on tonight. We needed to hear that perspective also, because it's a conversation.
I'm optimistic. We're going to make it.
Thanks for
We're going to make it. Thank you.
Welcome back to HSP episode number 75, dear listener. Russ, at the beginning of that, when Tucker came in and he was like, well, that was the president finishing up a long... I was like thinking in my head, I was like, that'd be so much cooler if it was like, well, that was the HSP boys finishing up a long first segment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It should have been. It should have been. But we will defer to the president, dear listener, in these circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, dear listener, one thing I didn't say before we went to audio break. And by the way, I'm sorry for the mulligan there in the middle. We'll fix it in post, Luke. We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. We always fix it in post.
We always fix it in post.
People have no idea how much stuff we fix in post.
True. Fact.
I mean, the show is actually terrible, and we actually re-record everything and post in like little 30-second sound bites.
Indeed. Indeed.
We record. Usually what we do is we record the show and then we re-record the show in 30-second sound bites.
Mm-hmm. Just so. Yeah. There's how the mix is made, dear listener. There's how it is. So anyways, the president mic dropped when he left that press conference. He mic dropped and then Tucker dropped in. It was so good. It was so good. Yeah. Now, thank you so much for being here in the press office. Tucker's on now. I've got to go. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah. So were you able to listen?
Yeah, I listened to most of it.
What did you think?
I thought
Dan Patrick. Yeah. I thought Dan Patrick slayed it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked it. And I mean, to an extent, I agree. I mean, we do need to. I mean, this is a very difficult. I don't want to say difficult time, but like a difficult to understand how to navigate the waters here.
Mm-hmm.
From an idea, from every perspective, from an epidemiological perspective, from a political perspective, from an ideological perspective, even to some extent a philosophical perspective. You know, this is, and I was in chats with Dan about this earlier today. It's like, I'm plowing new ground here and how I think about what a proper political response to this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's kind of, making me sort of not reevaluate and like, oh, I was wrong and I need to change that. But like, for the first time, think about how to think about a proper political response to this.
Yeah. The meta thought. Excuse me, dear listener. Yeah, the meta thought. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been interesting. I'll put it that way. It's been interesting. And I appreciate the positive sentiments, but at the same time, so I've got so many people like messaging me on WhatsApp and
hashtag me too. Yeah.
It's like I'm blowing up over here and it's distracting me. I should just quit WhatsApp. But yeah, like it's, the government has a role to play in mitigating risk, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if the risk is imminent in this case. Mm-hmm. So, I was talking to Dan earlier and Rhode Island is really going like hardcore in a lot of their measures right now. So, basically what they're doing is they're on the brink of shutting down the borders.
Dang, really? Wow.
Yeah, and so and I mean, Trump said earlier today they're thinking about quarantining New York. Let's see, I believe it was New York, New Jersey, and maybe Massachusetts.
Dang,
I could be wrong in the Massachusetts, but for sure, New York and New Jersey, they're thinking about quarantining the states just outright. And and you know, it's like I can't really disagree with that. You know?
Yeah.
Because like you need to test, you need to track, you need to isolate. This is how, like, in Germany, they've done such a good job with mitigating this, is like they haven't been testing like crazy, but they, as soon as they know that you have it, they track like crazy and they isolate like crazy. So they track you, they figure out everyone you've had contact with in that time, they contact all those people, test all those people, ask all those people who they've had contact with, and then they just fan out and test all those people.
Yeah.
And then isolate them all. And then even if they can't test them, man, I got corona over here. Even if they can't test them, they still isolate them. You know, so, and I think that's a proper governmental response, because this is an imminent threat. And I get where people are saying like, oh, this isn't much worse than the flu, but it's like, there are some things about this that are unique. Namely, we don't have a vaccine and the latency of symptoms. It's like those two things.
Yeah.
And the transmissibility. So it's highly transmissible. Latency of symptoms combined with the fact that we don't have a vaccine. Yeah, that causes a problem. But yeah, I mean, I also agree with Trump. Like, we don't want to linger on this. We want to try and get the economy back up and running. And there's a lot of people out there, restaurant workers, where it's like, you know, I have to admit, if it was between paying rent and taking a chance of getting corona, I would choose to work and pay rent.
Yeah.
To be honest, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if I get it, I mean, this is like the millennial meme. There's like some millennial that was interviewed. They're like, are you worried about it? He's like, you know, he was like in like Florida partying. And he was like, you know, if I get corona, I get corona.
I saw that. Yeah. Yeah.
And there were other millennials. There was another meme that went around. It was like, hashtag if I die, I die. Because they're like,
I saw that,
capitalizing on like all cheap flights and cruises and stuff. And it's just like, just booked a flight for 300 euros to, you know, Southeast Asia to Thailand. Hashtag if I die, I die.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm right there with you in your ambivalence. You know, I'm right there with you. I see both sides of this. And speaking of that, our buddy that you met briefly when we were waiting in line for the Trump rally that held my spot, and I held his spot, right? He and his wife, drop dead gorgeous, went and saw, and you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Trump. You know, I'm talking to you and your wife right now. They went to the Star Trek Center in Georgia because he was like, man, it's so cheap. There were 10 people on a flight of 210. There's no chance of getting infected. And they took some gorgeous photos and he sent them back to me. So I get this time of, you know, take risks and travel, right? It's cheap. It's cheap. I get it. I also get what Luke just said about, yeah, some stuff maybe need to be quarantined. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, funny, if you know they have it, then quarantine their asses. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to John last night, and he was like, you know what? This is what Trump should do: quarantine Massachusetts, quarantine San Francisco, quarantine New York. He's not going to lose any votes there. Just quarantine them and let flyover country still move about.
Man, dude, we'll just call this a harsh form of voter suppression.
Indeed.
We have to purge.
Indeed.
We got to, you know, to make up for all the illegal immigrants voting in other states, we got to purge some out of New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey.
Right, man. Right.
Oh, God, I shouldn't be joking about that.
I know. Listen, New York, dear listeners, of whom there are numerous, we're just kidding. We're just trying to have some fun right now, okay? New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Boston, you're in the first place spot this week. We're just trying to have some fun. That's it. San Francisco, we're just trying to have some fun. Okay, that's it.
But it is worth pointing out that we wouldn't have to have this conversation if the healthcare industry weren't so hampered and all of these other industries weren't so hampered.
Yeah. This is a major concern of mine, Luke, is that the healthcare industry has just been exposed entirely for their vulnerability. Yeah, their fragility. Yeah. And what you're going to see, it's already happening. You're not going to see we're seeing it, right? People like Bernie Sanders coming out. This is why we want single payer system, because this system fails, right? And so it's scary. And this is a potential win for Democrats, and unless we shore this shit up really quick, it's a liability. Now, am I confident? Yes. Am I confident in our healthcare workers? Yes, I am. Right. And speaking of, man, there's a friend of mine in California. I won't dox him. His brother and sister-in-law are both nurses, and they both tested positive. Right. But they're okay. They're mildly symptomatic. No problem. Right. So far, so God bless our healthcare workers. I mean that. Thank you. But nonetheless, the system has been exposed. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, totally. And here in Europe as well.
Yeah.
But unfortunately that, all these people on the left who advocate for single payer healthcare and all this, they're going to go straight to they're going to rationalize all sorts of other reasons as to why this isn't the real case and blah, blah, blah.
Indeed.
It's not that. And I mean, to be fair, South Korea has done a really good job with this, and they actually have a single payer healthcare system,
Oh, they do? I didn't know that.
They do. Dang. Yeah, I looked it up.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, they have a single payer healthcare, and they're handling this really well. But, there are just some countries. There are in the European left versus the American left. The European left is very much like this. They're much more practical with their solutions. I really should say pragmatic, but they'll implement some socialistic type policies, but they'll also say, okay, but X, Y, and Z, we need to do it this way because that's never going to work. So, for example, Sweden and Denmark, they've got these big welfare states, but they recognize that they have to have a way to pay for it. So they roll back regulations. And now Sweden and Denmark, for sure Denmark, are less regulated than the United States because they recognize they need to have a strong capitalistic private sector to pay for their expensive welfare state. Now, they'd be much better off without the welfare state, and then they would be even far wealthier, but they at least recognize that they have to have a way to pay for it. American leftists are just idiots in the sense that they're against all of it. So somebody like Bernie Sanders wants to have all of the welfare state of Sweden and Denmark and none of the economic freedom that's going to pay for it.
Exactly. He accuses them of being socialist states, and literally the president, premier, chancellor, I can't remember, a long time ago, back in 2016, called out Bernie Sanders, literally saying, stop calling us socialist. We're not. We're capitalist, right?
They're capitalist with the welfare state. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But I mean, it's the same, same point. So,
right.
And I mean, the American leftists, they're just like, they're both dumb in the sense that they ignore the fact that it's expensive. Well, they don't consider the costs, and they don't consider how they're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's just all about the morality. So they're not, they're not deriving value from fact. And this is, AOC, when she was like, just because I'm not 100% factually correct doesn't mean I can't be morally correct or morally right.
Yeah.
This is exactly what she's getting at. She's like, I don't need to consider the fact that this programs are expensive. I don't need to consider the fact that I'm going to have to pay for them somehow. We're going to have to pay for them somehow. I don't need to consider. They're just right. And that's just what we should do.
Exactly so. Well said.
Whereas like the European left, they consider the fact that it's expensive, and they consider the fact that they have to pay for it. So they come up with ways to do it. And they'd be better if they didn't have them in the first place, but at least they do that. That's why it works, And the same with the healthcare over here, and then South Korea as well.
Yeah.
I've got a thread here, like speaking on, private enterprise. So Yarn Brook did like a 16 tweet, and it's not long. They're not long tweets. It's like 1 or 2 bullet points in each one on how a fully, truly free, privatized capitalist economy in the truest sense would have handled this. So I'm curious to get your feedback on this, Russ.
Okay.
And I actually responded with 2 tweets at the very end, which he actually liked, and one of them he retweeted. And Yarn, by the way, Yarn Brook is the former executive director, now chairman of the board of directors of the Ayn Rand Institute. So he's got a big following. But health insurance. So he says, number 1, health insurance companies monitor for health risks that they have economic parentheses. They have economic interest to do so in parentheses. Number 2, warn early. Implement plans with hospitals that have been developed well in advance. Number 3, demand from hospitals for extra equipment causes price to go up quickly. Number 4, market response by bringing on new capacity quickly. 5, groceries.
Hashtag GM right here. Trump calling on GM to produce ventilators. And Dyson has said that they will stop producing vacuum cleaners and produce ventilators. Anyway,
I don't know if I want that Dyson ventilator, man. It's going to suck your lungs straight out of your mouth, dude.
It's pretty strong.
Dude, it's too much ventilation. Make it stop.
All right. Sorry, man. Sorry. Go on.
No worries. 4, market response by bringing on new capacity quickly. 5, this is basic. That's just basic free market economics. 5, groceries raise prices raise prices. It's clear he didn't proofread his tweets. Groceries raise prices on high in-demand goods, thus reducing hoarding and assuring continued supply. 6, hospitals, all private and in a completely private market, activate emergency plans, which they have a for-profit motive to have, for additional beds, parentheses, in mothballed buildings, local hotels, or other facilities, in parentheses. 7, private pharma companies and labs develop tests at the request of hospitals and clinics. 8, private clinics start testing en masse. 9, government's job to make sure those who are a threat to others are isolated. 10, private media and health experts provide objective, non-political advice to individuals and companies on how to deal in the context of their own lives with the epidemic.
Indeed.
11.
Sorry, man.
11. Yeah, good luck with that. That's a LARP.
Yeah, right.
11, testing provides individuals and companies with the kind of information crucial to making rational decisions. 12, private labs and pharma companies rush to innovate treatments and vaccines. 13, private testing and certification organizations, which are FDA replacements, ramp up to approve test kits, treatments, and vaccines. 14, businesses adjust to people's preferences for safety, put in necessary protections and conveniences. 15, people who don't follow the reasonable guidelines suffer social ostracism and left to suffer the consequences. 16, insurance contracts could be written in ways that say, if you want to be covered, behave. And then he says, if anybody has anything else, feel free to add. And I added, businesses adjust jobs in accordance with market demand. Example given, restaurants in Texas converted servers into delivery drivers and opened drive-through options once the regulations preventing them from doing so were removed.
Indeed.
And then I also put, landlords are in a better position to negotiate late rent payments, financing options to business and residents in good faith once freed from the shackles of property taxes. So you see how at every step of the way, all of these government regulations necessitate a bailout of this scale.
Yes.
Because everyone is screwed and nobody can do anything because of all of the government regulations, and nobody is prepared. This is what regulations do. They make the economy net dumber.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Because when you're responsible for something like this, and then something like this happens, and you make the same mistake, and a company tanks, well, that company and fails and craters and becomes a huge disaster and kills a bunch of people. Guess what? Now that company is a business school case study of what not to do.
Should be. Yeah.
But we're never going to learn that lesson now because of something like this bailout.
Exactly. Pisses me off, man. And John was the one who red pilled me about Dyson, and I double checked it last night, and it's true. It's 100% true, right? And then all of these people started squawking on Twitter at Dyson. Oh my God, look at Dyson profiting off of this horrible plague. Oh my God, right? And John's comment to that was, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, that's definitely true. But dear listener, by the way, Luke, I agree 100 of 100 with Yarn Brook right now, and I seldom do that. I seldom do, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with your suggestion as well, right? There is a market right now for ventilators. Dear listener, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with that? People need ventilators, right? There's a market for it, right? There is government funding for it right now. There is private funding for it. What's the problem with Dyson doing what they do? Nothing. Should they be anti-virtue signaled? Should they be virtue signaled against for trying to profit? No. In fact, they're doing a moral good right now. They are doing a moral good by meeting demand. But I do agree with Luke's point. Man, I don't know that I want my lungs sucked out by a Dyson vacuum cleaner.
So the ventilation, I swear I'm better. It's just a cold. It's just a cold, bro. Take it away.
Yeah. Let me go. Yeah.
Dyson.
Yeah.
The future of ventilators.
Yeah. Turn you into Darth Vader in a hurry, you heard? Turn
I know, right?
Straight into Darth Vader. Yeah. I'm crying, man. I'm crying. Let me wipe my eyes, man.
Dyson ventilators, man. You know those are going to be like the most expensive ventilators.
Of course, they should be. Yeah. Dyson makes a god tier product. They should be, Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm still bummed. When we were in Thailand, we were at a mall in Thailand, and they had a Dyson hair dryer that Jessica wanted, and it was like, I don't remember. It was at the time I was like, it's probably the same price in Europe. I came back, it's like 3 times the price here.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I believe it.
By the way, dear listener, I do not have corona. I was hit with an allergy attack on break.
Man, I think John has the kung flu. I think he does. He says it's only allergies, but I think he's infected. Yeah, fact. Yep.
Dude,
Yep.
By the way, something else I wanted to ask you, Cuomo. Yeah, I get really confused because Governor Cuomo looks just like Chris Cuomo.
Yeah.
So I always have to click into the article and be like, is this okay? Like,
yeah.
It's Andrew Cuomo. Okay.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah. Andrew does look like his younger brother Fredo, and it defies the logic of The Godfather, dear listener, where what's the older brother's name? Oh God, it just left me. Fredo's the older brother, and Michael Corleone is the younger brother, right? Here in this relationship with the Cuomos, Michael Corleone is the older brother and Fredo is the younger. That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And Luke and I didn't create this. Rush created that. He started calling Chris Cuomo Fredo. So, yeah. So there you go.
Dude, I've never seen The Godfather.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Well, now's a good time to do it. Now's a good time.
I don't know, man. I'm just like, I'm not a big movie person. Like, I like comedies, but just it has to be a really good, it has to be, if it's not a comedy, it has to be recommended to me like 10 times by 10 different people.
Yeah, fair enough. I get it.
Because there's so many shitty movies out there.
Yeah, there are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I recommend it. Do as you will, man. But I recommend it. It's good. It's good stuff.
And a lot of them, like especially movies like The Godfather, are so malevolent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are. Like Scarface. Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I loved Scarface.
I did too, dude. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially like
say hello to my little friend. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I like Scarface. I love the aesthetics of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too.
That's what I think. I tried watching Godfather, and I didn't like the aesthetics of it. I had watched like a little bit of it, but it was like very dark and bleak and just malevolent. And I was like, this isn't why I watch a movie, Yeah,
I get your point. Yeah,
I don't watch it Coppola. for drama for drama's sake. I don't know. Maybe there's another message there, but like the first Jurassic Park, for example, was interesting because it was asking the question fundamentally. What happens when you tamper with nature in such a way?
Right.
That was like the fundamental question of Jurassic Park. But, the rest of them were like, oh, hey, let's see this guy get torn apart by a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
But, the first one posed a philosophical question. It was like, should we tamper with nature?
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And those are the kinds of movies that I like that are not comedies.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Totally. Yep. Well, you are regarding The Godfather. You are correct about the malevolence of it. It is very malevolent, and is it purposely malevolent? Not really, man. It's malevolence for the sake of malevolence. It's blood for the sake of blood, even though it hides away that blood except for the horse head scene. And yeah. And don't want to spoil it. Yeah.
What was the I mean, this is why I hate Tarantino. Tarantino's such a shit tier. I hate. Yeah. It's just revenge porn. It caters to the lowest of human emotions. The movie, I believe it was a Tarantino movie where, oh man, really famous. It is. Tarantino's in the movie. There's a scene in there where there's like an undercover officer that's having his ear cut off.
Reservoir Dogs. I knew it was two words, and like it had animals. That's his first movie. Yeah.
Like that. That sort of stuff. It's like, to me, that was just violence for violence sake.
Yeah.
Shock value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I watched, oh gosh, the one about in Nazi Germany with Brad Pitt.
Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, I watched Inglourious Bastards, and then when I saw the advertisements for Django Unchained, I was like, all right, that's it. Quentin Tarantino is a shit tier, whatever he is, writer, producer, director. I don't even know. Who cares?
Auteur.
Yeah, it's just like,
I
whatever,
agree.
dude. I'm never watching anything he ever does again. It just caters to the lowest of human emotions. It's malevolence. It doesn't ask any important philosophical questions. It doesn't celebrate humanity or human life in any way. It's just revenge porn, and it caters to the lowest of human emotions, so as to sell tickets.
Yeah. I'm right there with you on Tarantino. I don't like his historical relativism at all. Right. There are people that are going to grow up because they saw Inglourious Bastards literally thinking that Hitler got killed in a movie theater, right? Because of what he did. I don't like it.
Yeah. I think what you mean is historical subjectivism. Just subjective interpretation of history. It's a subjective rewriting, not interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's going to be kids that grow up thinking, like in that scene where Brad Pitt's like, we're gonna carve a swastika in them Nazis' heads. And there's going to be kids thinking that that's justified. It's like, maybe have you ever considered the idea that there were a lot of young boys who had no other choice? They were drafted into the army from the age of 14. Like my wife's uncle was torn from the arms of his crying parents by Nazi soldiers and forced into Hitler Youth.
Yes, sir.
And then now he's buried in a mass grave in Ukraine. And then you've got Tarantino out here writing movie. Oh, we're going to carve a swastika in the knives or foreheads of any. I mean, they didn't want to be there. Most Germans, they were more than ready for the war to get. They didn't even care, And then you've got these people.
Luke, I'm gonna trigger you here for a moment, and this is a fact. Okay, you remember when you were in the Corps, right? That everybody every now and then would recite General Patton's speech from the movie. You remember that?
Yeah.
So now they recite Brad Pitt's speech from Inglourious Bastards. I swear to God.
In the Corps today?
It's not ubiquitous. What's that?
In the Corps today?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I can prove it. I'll prove it to you offline. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I want to see that, because if so, somebody's getting a letter sent to them.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's coming from me. And it's not going to be kindly worded.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, when moving here to Germany, I've gotten super red pilled on like in any war, there are always two sides fighting each other. It's not, and one side's good and one side might be good and one side might be bad, but there are human beings on both sides of the world, innocent human beings, even if they're holding a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's disgusting.
I do too,
looking
man.
back on that. And I didn't understand that at the time. At the time, if anything, I was kind of like, yeah, but now that I actually understand, have a better understanding of the world, it's just absolutely reprehensible. And I have
it's horrible. Yeah.
Nothing but vitriol. Well, no, I don't want to say vitriol, but disdain for Tarantino's work. Quote unquote work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of which, Hollywood's taking a hit during this whole Corona thing, which much to my enjoyment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were already taking a hit because like people watch TV shows now. They don't watch movies.
True. Yeah. Did you watch that John Lennon Imagine video by Gal Gadot that I sent you?
Yeah.
It's the cringiest shit I've ever seen. And the best comment I saw on YouTube from that was like, 2 days is all you could last without attention whoring. Yeah. Cringe, pure cringe. Yep. We actually thought about playing it, dear listener, but we were like, no, man, we're not letting these.
No. And I mean, here's the thing.
In these hallowed halls.
Imagine doesn't have anything to do with the global pandemic.
Right.
The lyrics have nothing to do with that. The lyrics are, if anything, just atheistic. It's like, imagine all the people.
Communistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine there's no heaven. Imagine there's no hell. It has nothing to do with a global pandemic. It's like pure attention.
Imagine there's no borders. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Pissed me off, man. Pissed me off. But, that said, it pissed me off. But the like to dislike ratio encouraged me, and the comments restored my faith in humanity entirely. 100% negative comments on it, dear listener. That's what it is. 100% negative.
What were the comments?
It was great. Oh, all kinds of stuff. Imagine no Hollywood celebrities. Imagine the day of the rope. Imagine this kind of stuff. It was good, man. It was good. Yeah.
So, dear listener, if you're not aware, so who put out the first tweet to initiate this process?
Gal Gadot did the project. Oh, who was it? I can't recall. It was a magazine that did it. It was a magazine.
Okay. And basically a bunch of celebrities were each supposed to sing a line out of the song Imagine by John Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just turned, it was so cringy. These celebrities recording, they're trying to look all dreamy eyed and captivated. We're all in this together. Just imagine.
Yeah, man. It was as big of a fail, if not bigger, than the Gillette ad. Pretty much. It was just a pure fail. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, dude. Well, what else we got? Let's see.
Well,
that's all I wanted to cover explicitly. I got a whole bunch of, AOC meltdown. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Man, Ross posted in the General this morning, or maybe last night, I don't recall, and about what's going on in China. I find that fascinating, Ross. Thank you for red pilling us. I actually did know about it, but man, there is full on open revolt in Wuhan right now, dear listener. This is a fascinating development, and we'll just see how it goes. I think that's a hit and quit, Luke. I think.
Yeah. I honestly don't. I don't think it's going to be a happening.
Really? Mm-mm. It already was a happening. It was.
Not really. It was a bridge protest. That's all it was.
Yeah. But man, police people fighting each other in China, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. That's the first time you see the police people, fighting each other, but it wasn't that many people involved. I don't think I want to see more. I want to see more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I agree.
It's way too early to tell. If this propagates, I'll revise my opinion accordingly. But right now, I don't trust the CCP on what they're reporting about this. So we're having to get on the ground reporting.
Yes, sir.
So basically what happened, dear listener, is that a massive, allegedly, this is Breitbart, which admittedly can be a little histrionic at times, but a huge, and I'm reading here, a huge protest march swept out of China's Hubei province on Friday, with thousands of angry residents pouring across a bridge into neighboring Jiangxi province and clashing with police. And so the capital city of Hubei province is Wuhan, which was ground zero, obviously, for the corona pandemic. So basically, these people they're angry after weeks of coronavirus lockdown. The protesters,
they were let loose 3 days ago. They were let loose. They wanted to go back to work. Go on.
Yeah. They were infuriated by how the government has treated them during the crisis, infuriated enough to flip over police cars and swarm past riot control barriers. I'm trying to go down.
Okay, this is inference, Breitbart. That's inference. We don't know their motive, okay, other than they were trying to go back to Jiangxi to get back to work. That's the only motive that we understand. The rest is inference. And listen, I love Breitbart, man. I love Breitbart, but that's pure projection right there.
Yeah, they can Breitbart can kind of overstep their boundaries sometimes.
Yeah.
So according to Things China Doesn't Want You to Know Twitter account quoted above, there are rumors that the riot was kicked off by a fight between Hubei and Jiangxi police officers. The Hubei police were reportedly angered by Jiangxi police. Dude, I don't know how to pronounce these city names.
I think it's Jiangxi. I think that's it.
I think so too, Jiangxi. Because I'm pronouncing the G like Xi Jinping.
Yeah, right. Just so.
So Jiangxi police crossing into their jurisdiction. A number of Hubei police officers appear to have joined the civilian demonstrators in their march toward Jiangxi and evidently raised few objections when the civilians decided to trash a few Jiangxi police cars and club riot police with their own shields. Noted Chinese dissident Badiachao, I don't know, heard rumors that the fight broke out because Jiangxi police resisted orders to open the border to Hubei after the coronavirus lockdown officially ended on Wednesday. One reason for their reluctance, according to Badiachao, is that, quote, no one trusts the official numbers, end quote, for reduced coronavirus infections in Hubei, not even the police. So who knows? I don't think this is big enough at this point for it to get out of control with the CCP. That's why I say I want to see if this gets legs. If it gets legs, we might see something.
Same here.
And even then, I'm highly skeptical as to how far this will go. But
what I do find interesting about it is that videos were being uploaded to their social media there in China, because like Facebook and Google and these things are not allowed to be there. And the CCP was deleting them like within seconds. They would delete them. Nonetheless, the message got out, right? So what that means is that the CCP did not effectively control the messaging. What I see also here interesting is that the CCP did not intervene, right? It wasn't what I expected, Luke, was full on revolt against the CCP. Didn't happen that way. It's looking like kind of civil skirmishes now, and the CCP could not control it and didn't even try. And I find that interesting. You heard?
Yeah, I think the CCP is realizing that they messed up.
I think you're right.
And they're kind of taking a more diplomatic approach.
Yeah. I think that's why they're coordinating with Trump as of Friday, this past week, coordinating with him to, let's get the virus killed, because they're losing the propaganda war with Trump calling it the Chinese virus, which he finally has stopped doing, right? But he named it already, and it is the Chinese virus, dear listener.
It's as much as the Chinese
Wuhan flu.
It's as much as the Chinese virus as the Spanish flu is Spanish.
Well, interestingly enough, the Spanish flu originated in China. Imagine that. But it infected Spain and spread.
Imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Isn't it funny, though?
But it did what in Spain?
Yeah.
Say that again.
It spread from Spain. It infected from Spain.
Ah,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they got their ass handed to them by the Chinese government, which was not yet communist at that point in time in 1910, dear listener. It was not, but they were propaganda masters as they are now, even back then, right? They blamed it on Spain, just like they're trying to blame the Kung flu on our military. You know?
Yeah, I'm reading.
They won that one.
Yeah, I'm reading about on Wikipedia about the hypotheses about the source, and it's been the hypotheses about the source have been UK, United States, China, and even other places.
I hadn't read that. I've always just kind of understood that it came from China. That, you know, I never proved it. I just kind of
data. Like, we probably don't have enough data to conclusively say one way or the other. I would.
Yeah, it was so massive and so sudden. They're saying 50 million dead from 1910, but like estimates go up as high as 100 million, and we so many died. We just so quickly, we just don't know, you know? So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. In 2006, these Chinese scientists said that it was the reason that there were relatively few Spanish flu deaths in China relative to the rest of the world is more likely because the traditional Chinese medicine played an important role in prevention. That's probably what caused it in the first place, to be honest.
Exactly, man. Yeah. Interestingly, Luke, there is I don't have a source pulled up for it. I've got a cough here real quick. I don't have the source pulled up, but it has been proven that the Kung flu virus did originate in a Chinese lab, and they proved it by mutation backtracking. So it did not originate in the bat suit. It originated in a lab, right?
Can you send after the show? Can you send that article? I want to read that because
okay, I'll find it
because we have a mutual friend that has a hunch.
Oh, okay.
But I've been reading just the opposite. I've been reading that and listening to interviews that it's more likely that they were like looking at this. This does not look like something that occurred. That was made in a lab. That this is something that more likely occurred naturally, just in nature. But I mean, at the same time, I'm like 50-50. I could 50-50 not believe, but I'm 50-50 on it. I could be convinced either way if I see enough evidence that will convince me of that.
Yeah, I hear you. Man, I have some bad news. I did not have a source. Well, I do have a source for it, but I heard it and I can't recall it. It was an epidemiologist who Rick Roberts had on his show this past Tuesday. So I don't have printed form for it. I'll look for it. All
right. Yeah. If you find it, let me know.
All right. We'll do.
All right, dude.
And Rick Roberts, by the way, has let us down before about the Texas gun laws. But it wasn't Rick Roberts. It was his source that he had on the horn. Right. So we'll find out. Yeah.
For sure. Do you want to call the show, man?
Yeah, man. We're at 2 hours right now. I think we've done good. How you feeling?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's call it.
All right. Dear listener, thank you so much for riding along this 75 miles with us. Luke and I are going to pitch camp right here, right now. We're going to share some food. We're going to share some drink. We're going to enjoy each other's company. Thank you so much for riding along with us. Luke, you take care, brother. Stay well.
You too, man.
All right. Late.
Peace.